Hello everyone and welcome back to Anomalous Archive, where we post scary stories to help you sleep. Please comment where you are listening to my videos from, since I believe it would be fun for all of us to know. Also, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for helping me reach to 50 subscribers. Let's reach 100 subscribers before the end of January. So sit back, relax and enjoy. I was in a dark, almost completely unlit room. In my hands rested a folder full of papers. No normal person could work in such lighting conditions, but I was no ordinary person. My eyes could see in pitch darkness, rivaling any house or stray cat in this skill. I earned my nickname because, wherever I went, some kind of tailed creature always seemed to follow me. However, that wasn't important at the moment, as my thoughts were preoccupied with something entirely different. I had long noticed that the most horrifying crimes covered in criminal chronicles often occurred in small, unremarkable towns. Due to my profession, I collected data on such cases and, when necessary, conducted my own independent investigations. Most often, my findings contradicted the official investigation's conclusions, which occasionally caused me problems with law enforcement. Most likely, the same would happen in this case, which I planned to take on despite the upcoming new year. But what did the holiday mean to me anyway? A plate of salad, tangerines, and a glass of champagne as the clock struck midnight? Perhaps that's how it would have gone this time too, if not for a new case that made my hands tremble with anticipation of an extraordinary event. Although, before sharing it with you, I should clarify that I'm no ordinary detective. Not one of those trailing unfaithful husbands or snapping incriminating photos of competitors. Not at all. My specialty was investigating paranormal phenomena, the existence of which official investigations typically denied. There weren't many truly significant cases, but the ones I had encountered were etched in my memory forever. Like, for instance, the list of victims connected to the killer car. Over the course of a year and a half, this monstrosity managed to send at least 10 people to their deaths. I was the only one who noticed that, after being wrecked in a horrific accident, the car reappeared somewhere brand new, shining with fresh paint. Moreover, the injuries of those involved in its accidents were peculiar, as if they had been in the jaws of an alligator. Forensic experts were baffled. A person trapped in the car was, quite literally, gnawed down to the bones. It took me about 2 months to hunt down this hellish beast, which I then burned with a few bottles of Molotov cocktails. You might not believe this, but the cursed slaughterhouse on wheels screamed in an almost human voice. If I hadn't been convinced of its diabolical nature, I'd never have believed such a thing myself. Then there was the case of a private dentist whose patients started dying 6 months after visiting his office. Not all of them, of course, only those who had dental prostheses installed. For a long time, the police couldn't connect the deaths to the visits to the orthodontist. The reason lay in the material of the prostheses. The plates were made of an unearthly alloy composed of fragments of ancient magical artifacts. When in contact with human skin, they caused slow poisoning. The maniac in a white coat needed no more than 6 months for his victims to end up 6 feet under. To expose this murderer, I had to visit his tooth-crushing den personally. The maniac dodged questions for a long time, occasionally offering to install the latest dental prostheses for me. When I finally agreed, a gleam of excitement flashed in his eyes. That's when I knew the fish had taken the bait. Of course, I didn't actually have any prostheses installed. I burned the device as soon as it landed in my hands. As for the dentist, he got what he deserved. They say his body is still being searched for. A wasted effort, really. As it did its job beautifully. Why worry about it? There were several other high-profile and astonishing cases, but I neither had the time nor the energy to recount them now. Especially with a new investigation looming, one that, according to my friend Peter, promised to be far more intriguing than any before. We hadn't spoken in about a year, and now he had decided to reach out and involve me in this new case. "Hey, bro. How's it going? How's life? Preparing for the new year, I suppose?" I paused for a moment, trying to figure out the true reason for his call. To wish me a happy holiday? No, that wasn't like him. Peter was as much of a daredevil as I was, perhaps even more reckless. Occasionally, we crossed paths and worked together, but it was rare and only in exceptional circumstances. So what did he want this time? Regardless of my thoughts, I had to respond. "Hey there, buddy. Happy holidays to you too. As for business." "What business, when New Year's right around the corner?" "Boring, to put it simply." Peter chuckled knowingly. "Well, that's no surprise. I'm the same way. I like it when adrenaline's through the roof. Otherwise, life's so dull you could climb the walls out of boredom. Don't sell yourself short. I heard you recently tackled quite a case, investigating an abandoned Soviet military site. And who tracked down the maniac? The father working for the ambulance service?" "Well, yeah," Peter admitted, impressed by my awareness. "That did happen. Made a pretty penny off that one. But you've had your share of fun too, the contaminated house, the cesspools, and the manure pit case?" "I keep a close eye on your adventures. Haven't missed a single publication. I know you've got contracts with several magazines about the paranormal." Peter was surprised by my awareness, but didn't avoid responding. After exchanging a few references, he got down to business. "Here's the thing, bro. I'm not calling to wish you a happy holiday. I've got a case here. Don't even know where to start. It's strange, to say the least." "What's the issue?" "Try to figure it out. But I'll only reveal the details once you agree to join the joint investigation. Well, collaboration, so to speak. Can you be more specific? Do you expect me to agree blindly or something? Maybe you've dug up some nonsense, and now I'm supposed to waste all my holiday time on it?" Peter retorted indignantly into the phone. "No, man, it's not nonsense. I knew you wouldn't agree that easily. Fine, but this stays between us, all right? Basically, there's this place where, on New Year's Eve, people inevitably die." I frowned in surprise. Peter's story had clearly piqued my interest. A place where people die? And regularly? What is it, a mobile guillotine? Or an electric chair for thrill seekers? Peter began his explanation from afar. "It's like this. The first mentions of this place appeared in the late 2000s. Back then, a group of young people celebrated New Year's in a country house situated in the middle of a forest. The house was a rental and could be used by hunters as a campsite, barbecue area, a pool in summer, and massive fir trees in the yard. However, no one died there in summer. Only in winter, on the night of December 31st to January 1st. The first victims were found only on Epiphany. The frost was severe, so the bodies were well preserved. According to witnesses, the yard was drenched in blood, frozen entrails were found even on the roof, and one victim's head was lodged in the chimney. No traces were discovered, except for those belonging to the deceased. It was a dead end. The initial theory was that they killed each other, overdosing on something like alcohol or drugs. The bodies of 3 girls and 3 guys were torn to pieces. Arms, legs, and even chunks of flesh were found on the branches of that same fir tree, as if some beast had decided to decorate it. As expected, the investigation led nowhere. The killer or killers were never found. A couple of years later, it happened again. This time, it was a young married couple. No one survived except the family dog. Those who found the pet on January 3rd said its fur had turned white as snow from fear. Once again, the investigation yielded no leads. It all looked as though the house's residents had killed each other. The walls were splattered with blood, and that cursed fir tree in the yard again bore fragments of human entrails on its branches. For about 5 years, the house remained empty. Then the death conveyor inside it started again. The next victims were an elderly couple who decided to relive their youth by spending New Year's Eve in the house. The man's body was found only a month later, as it was hanging from the top of the fir tree like a Christmas star. Almost nothing was left of the woman. Apparently forest animals took care of her. She was identified only by a small bracelet on her wrist, a gift from her husband for their golden wedding anniversary. There were other victims, but the last time it happened was 7 years ago. Since then, the forest house had been abandoned. Recently, I learned that a group of young people plans to spend New Year's Eve there. So I decided to join their group and attend the celebration. But, in reality, I have another goal. You know where this is going. I can't handle this on my own. It's serious business, so I'll need your help. So, what do you say? If you agree, I'll send you the coordinates of the house. Peter's story made me pause. My first instinct was to agree immediately. But when I thought it through, I realized this case was more complex than it seemed. After all, Peter wasn't nicknamed the Undertaker for nothing. He always took on the toughest cases and preferred working solo. So what had changed now? Why did he need my help? Could this place really be so dangerous that even he couldn't handle it alone? Then again, I didn't have much choice. Alright, I'm in. Send me the coordinates and as much info as you can about the place. I'll handle the rest on my end. Peter approved my decision and hung up. Despite the horror of what my colleague had told me, I felt an incredible surge of energy. It's the kind of thrill hunters feel when they catch the trail of a dead beast that had been hiding deep in the forest. Peter's offer was worth it. Too bad we'd have to share the glory if we succeeded. Still, we'd done that before, during the Black Valentine's Eve case, when young people began dying in the city. We reported that story from different angles, each of us posting an excellent piece on our blogs. There was also the mirror case. That one was good too. But neither compared to the horror we were about to face in this hunting lodge. Listening to Peter's story, I couldn't shake one thought. A remote country house in the middle of nowhere, fine, but someone must have been maintaining it. Cleaning it, at the very least. I'd need to take a closer look at it. Soon, Peter sent over the background information, which once again surprised me that this place had stayed in the shadows for so long. I leaned over my work laptop and began reading the information Peter had gathered. As usual, I imagined his raspy voice narrating it. The first case of mass murder in the Western Forest occurred on New Year's Eve 2008. The second was in 2010, when a young couple died. The next massacre happened in 2015, again on New Year's Eve. Since then, the place had been abandoned for over 7 years. And now, a group of bikers and their girlfriends planned to throw a big party there. Judging by the report, Peter knew exactly which group was involved. The Night Harpies. Their reputation was infamous: broken noses, ribs, and knocked out teeth. For example, if these bikers celebrated anything at one of the city's establishments, chaos was guaranteed. A bar brawl would erupt, knives would flash, and someone would inevitably get disemboweled. The perpetrator would be hard to find since the bikers never turned on their own. This gang had chosen the abandoned forest house, unafraid of its grim reputation. At the end of his report, Peter suggested we dress up as bikers and crash their New Year's Eve party disguised as fellow wanderers of the open road. That suggestion left me feeling uneasy. What was he even thinking? Has he completely lost it? I mean, me and bikers? Sure, I've been on a motorcycle before, but it was a sports bike, not one of those choppers with long handlebars. And where am I supposed to get leather gear? Nah, he can go on his own. How did I even get roped into this? Gotta hand it to Peter, though, he played his cards well. He piqued my interest while conveniently omitting the most important part until the very end, where he dropped the bombshell that I need to become a biker. Thanks a lot, really. If I spend New Year's Eve with bikers, there's no guarantee they won't end up killing each other even without the interference of dark forces. I fumed for about half an hour, but when I realized I'd miss out on the chance to participate in such a dangerous experiment, I gave in. Fine, whatever. I'll wear all black, not leather, though, maybe find something denim. The plan, as outlined on paper, went like this. On December 31st, around 10 p.m., we were supposed to arrive one by one at the Western Forest area. Following the pre-approved cover story, we pretend not to know each other. We were required to bring self-defense tools and equipment for photo and video documentation. If nothing happened during the night, we head home and close the case for good. As I reread Peter's recommendations, I couldn't ignore a couple of unpleasant points, like the ban on firearms during the operation. What, am I supposed to bring a pepper spray? Yeah, right. Let him go with his dog-stun taser. I, on the other hand, will bring a gun. Not registered, obviously. I'm not stupid. I got this rifle from black market diggers. A real beauty, chambered for 7.62 rounds. With a blackened monster like this, nothing is scary, not even the creatures supposedly lurking in Western Forest. First thing, I called my parents to let them know I wouldn't spend New Year's Eve with them. Son, where are you going? You're not planning to spend the holiday in one of your abandoned sites, are you? Can't you stay home with your family for once? Why do you need all this negativity? My mom said, clearly worried. Of course, I lied again, saying I'd spend the night with my girlfriend. Yeah, girlfriend. Sure, one after whom piles of corpses and mangled bodies are left behind. Judging by my mom's tone, she was a bit hurt. It's fine, I'll visit them on January 1st, if I survive, that is. On the other hand, if I find something worthwhile, I can sell the material to several publications focused on mystical phenomena. That's basically how I make a living. Dangerous work, no doubt. But who has it easy nowadays? Besides, I've been meaning to adopt a cat from a shelter. For some reason, cats never stay with me for long. One got hit by a car, another fell victim to a pit bull. Recently, an acquaintance suggested I adopt a gray cat from the shelter. Its name? Luna. What a name for a cat, right? I hesitated for a while. Should I take the cat or not? Then, remembering where I had to go the next day, I decided to postpone. Who knows, I might not come back alive from this cabin. And then who would take care of Luna? No, let's pull off this stunt with Peter first, and then we'll see, I thought and started packing. I knew the next day would be hectic, so it was better to take everything I might need. After all, my name is Thomas, go big or go home. For such events, I usually packed a travel backpack with essentials, a compass, a hunting knife, spare ammunition, a pair of rubber gloves, tools for basic forensic work, and a few spare batteries. I also brought supplies, a can of stew, a thermos of tea, and a chocolate bar. With this kit, I was ready for even a small war against the forest monster. I didn't know what Peter would bring, but I like snacks, especially after wrapping up an operation when you can sit by a fire with friends. But I digress. I placed my trusty rifle in the side pocket of my jacket. No silver bullets, holy water, or other nonsense, it's all rubbish. A bullet from a rifle will take down anyone, whether it's an ordinary person or some deranged creature tied to otherworldly evil. Personally, I prefer to burn such creatures, understanding that this way, I erased all traces. So, I was prepared to torch the old wreck of a cabin along with whatever inhabited it, whether it was an evil spirit, poltergeist, demon, or crazed maniac. Everything fears fire, those on this earth and beyond. Flammable materials, I decided, would go in a separate bag. Otherwise, if the bottles ignited on my back, I'd turn into a screaming, blazing candle in an instant. The entire evening and the first half of the next day, I was on edge. Micah told me I shouldn't have agreed to the Undertaker's invitation. Something was definitely off about this story. But what, I couldn't figure out. Towards evening, I received a message from Peter. "Hi, Thomas, hope we're still on. I had a small issue, but don't worry, I'll definitely be there. If you arrive before me, don't panic, the bikers know there'll be some guests, so you don't have to worry. They'll start drinking around 6 p.m., so by the time you show up, they won't even blink at a goat-legged demon. Oh, and one more thing, leave your car at the fork and use a snowmobile to reach the site. I'll mark a tree to point you to the transport. Good luck, buddy." His message didn't surprise me. It made sense. A snowmobile in a winter forest was perfect. Much better than a car, especially when your old Ford is from who knows what year. I decided to leave home around 9 p.m. It was slightly frosty, and the freshly fallen snow crunched pleasantly underfoot. By the time I warm up the car, pack everything in, and scout the area, I'll have a good sense of the place. 10 minutes later, I was already driving along the road toward the nearest forest. I'd never spent New Year's Eve in such an unusual setting before, a biker gang, a house with a bad reputation. What could be more original? The drive took about 40 minutes. During that time, Peter managed to call again. "Hey, man, you on your way? I've been wrestling with the battery all day. It died on me. I think I'll make it on time. You know what my ride's like. Try not to get into it with those bikers, okay? I know you've got a temper. Alright, see you soon. Wait for me, got it?" I shook my head, slowed down, and steered toward the fork in the road. The Undertaker hadn't lied. The arrow pointing the way was directed toward a small shelter covered with spruce branches. Peter was a thoughtful guy, but he seemed nervous. It felt like he was running from something. Was he planning to go on foot? And what about the gear? What if things didn't go as planned? How was he going to fend off evil creatures by throwing spruce cones at them? Getting out of the car, I loaded the bag filled with a combustible mixture onto the snowmobile. Adjusting the straps of the backpack on my shoulders, I started the engine. What a beast of a machine, I thought, watching it surge forward, eager for action. Turning the throttle, I sped down the forest road, dodging branches heavy with snow. The forests in this area were mixed. Conifers alternated with deciduous trees and vice versa. A cool breeze lashed my face as the snowmobile raced toward danger. At that moment, I realized the mistake I'd made by not bringing protective goggles. Few people knew that to see perfectly in the dark, I'd worn black glasses since childhood, regardless of whether the sun was shining overhead or not. I spotted the designated location from afar. A massive spruce tree decorated with glowing garlands, predominantly red, served as the landmark. From a distance, it looked as if the tree was drenched in fresh blood, which had frozen into crimson icicles on Mars. Wow, what a place, I shivered. But the first thing that truly unsettled me was the silence, ringing intense, like a backwoods morgue on Halloween Eve. Where are the bikers? Are they already drunk out of their minds? I thought. Stopping the snowmobile a few dozen meters from the main structure, I cautiously cocked the revolver. My heart suddenly began pounding like crazy, and my mouth was as dry as a lizard crossing the Sahara. A sip of tea right now would be great to kill this damn thirst, I thought. My hands trembled noticeably. No, I've never been a coward. Not at all, I tried convincing myself. What frightened me was the unknown and a strange sharp smell. For some inexplicable reason, this sickly sweet stench overpowered the frosty freshness of the New Year's forest. God, where have I smelled that before? I wondered. The nauseating, cloying, thick odor filled my nostrils, making me suppress the urge to vomit repeatedly. It's okay, I'll manage, not my first time, I reassured myself. I'd trained my willpower since childhood, repeatedly. But this smell forced me to recall an unpleasant memory from my past. That's right, it was Christmas in the village of Wintersfield. I was visiting my grandparents. My parents had stayed in the city, but I was always drawn to the forest, to nature, and the free way of life. By the time I arrived, my grandpa had hunted a magnificent boar, and as soon as I stepped off the train, I could smell burning flesh. Grandpa was butchering the boar. There was going to be a feast. But as I got closer, I heard the desperate screams of neighbors. Shots rang out from several rifles in their homes. The memories were so heavy that I involuntarily trembled with fear. Back then, Grandpa Norman was mauled by a rogue bear just 5 minutes before I arrived. Drawn by the smell of fresh meat, the beast broke through the flimsy fence with one swipe and burst into the yard. Grandpa died almost instantly. They said the bear crushed his skull with the first blow, driving it several centimeters into his torso. Then it tore open his abdominal cavity and unraveled his intestines. Blood, feces, and other foul substances were everywhere. The rogue bear was killed afterward, but that couldn't bring Grandpa Norman back. And I would forever remember the smell of fresh blood, human blood. Fatty, like crimson broth. Anyone who says there's no difference between animal and human blood is a fool. And now the air reeked distinctly of fresh blood. Human blood. Just like in the village, 5 minutes after Grandpa's death, when his hide had been halved by the bear's avalanche-like blow. On shaky legs, I moved closer. What happened here? Why is there no sound of shouting or loud music? And why is the snow in front of the house black? It should have been pure white, as befits New Year's Eve. Still gripping the revolver's handle, I stepped closer and almost fell onto the snow, slipping on someone's entrails. A scream lodged in my throat, not my own. Drawing the pistol, I aimed it at the house, expecting an attack at any moment. Then I heard strange sounds, drip, drip. Slowly turning my head toward the spruce tree, I froze in terror. What unfolded before my eyes was horrifying. Only now did I understand why the lights on the tree all appeared to be the same color, red. Hanging from the branches like Christmas ornaments were the mutilated remains of the bikers. Long strands of gray intestines dangled from the top to the base, like gruesome bloody tinsel. The heads of the slain replaced Christmas baubles, while their arms and legs served as candles. Judging by the scene, the massacre had happened very recently. The blood hadn't yet dried and dripped onto the snow, making a grotesque sound like a leaky faucet. Not far away lay the bikers' bloody clothes, resembling a pile of used napkins. But worse was the smell. There was no escaping it, even by covering my face with my hand. Someone immensely strong and cruel had dealt with the gang of bikers who, in life, could have subdued anyone. Their deaths were gruesome. The twisted mouths frozen in fierce screams and the post-mortem grimaces on the severed heads drew the eye, forcing me to stare into the face of death itself. A deadly silence enveloped the scene, broken only by the occasional drops of blood forming puddles at the base of the enormous spruce. Then, faintly, came the crunch of snow under someone's footsteps. Turning my gaze away from the horror, I looked back and couldn't suppress the scream that had been trapped in my chest for so long.